You may have heard of the subreddit NotHowGirlsWork. So we're going to have a look today at all of the wonderful ways the internet doesn't understand how autistic girls work, and just autistic people in general. It's probably not that surprising to most of you that a lot of people don't know how autism works. Let's go. Okay, so the first one. Apparently women lose their autism diagnosis after having a kid, is what it's called. So we've got an exchange here. Women lose their autism after pregnancy, so take off your rose glasses. Your rose glasses, not your rose tinted glasses, just your rose glasses. Have you taken off your rose glasses today? How does that work? Then the person's answered, hormones change, and the brain changes also. Lol what? In all caps. So if you didn't know, I am a parent. I have had a child. I was only diagnosed after having a child. I would say all the signs that I was an autistic person were there beforehand, so I wouldn't blame the pregnancy, but yes, the pregnancy most certainly didn't take this away. I don't know what it is about women's health and everybody just wanting to say that if you get pregnant, it will take all of your troubles away. Does society just want women to have children that much, that desperately? No, I'm joking, because I don't think any medical professionals are seriously saying have a child and then you won't be autistic. Mr. A here, I'm not sure is actually a qualified medical professional.
And I'm in the medical field. That's what's funny.
It happens with endometriosis. I also have endometriosis. People are told all the time, which is really outdated information, that if they have a child, it will go away, it will get better. Mine only got worse. Once again, I didn't even realize I'd had it until after I had a child. I did have symptoms beforehand of endometriosis, but only afterwards did I realize and actually go and get help for it. It's also just so funny because so many people are diagnosed after their children are diagnosed, because, you know, the medical professionals will say, oh, it's genetic. Do you have anyone else in your family? And then those doctors might start looking at the parents, or, you know, the parents might start looking at themselves. So certainly they were not cured. For me, just the act of pregnancy in itself helped me to connect the dots, because it's such a stressful time with so much change going on. And yes, there are a lot of hormonal changes, as it says, and I think it kind of pushes you to your limits a little bit, and then like a lot of things that I had kind of been managing and like coping strategies that I had just kind of went out the window. The whole process is just a lot, and it's so exhausting. You know, it takes a lot of energy and effort for people to mask, and I kind of, for a while, particularly while I was breastfeeding while my child was very small, I just forgot how to mask. I think I went to go and visit a load of family members, and I remember being so upset and thinking, I can't look them in the eye. Why can't I look them in the eye? And I felt really, really bad about it. But now I realize, like, oh, I just didn't have any extra energy to expend on trying to look like I'm not autistic anymore, even though I didn't know that I was autistic at the time. The comments, me after 5 pregnancies, still autistic. 5 pregnancies, my gosh. I had one child and I was like, enough, that's it, I'm done for life. I kind of always thought I wanted to have one child though. Maybe I need to go again and see if I'm still autistic. Might be worth a go. Maybe each pregnancy just causes the autism to flip-flop. One pregnancy gives you autism and the other takes it away. Thanks for that. Only uneven numbers of pregnancy then. I've had 2, and at 45 and menopause starting up, I'm more autistic than ever. I'm so scared already of menopause. It sounds like it's really difficult. I'm already signed up for HRT. I'm like, I'm not living with this stuff. It's hard enough to be in my brain as it is. No. Forever young. I've read a really interesting thing about autistic women during menopause and how it can amplify autistic issues and behaviors. Made me feel better because I thought I was going crazy. Yeah, that's so interesting, because when you are breastfeeding, when I was saying I was struggling with eye contact, when you're breastfeeding, it's very similar to being in menopause. Your estrogen levels go really, really low. Oh, somebody put, do women lose their ADHD after pregnancy too? Because I'll have a kid tomorrow if that's the case. Someone said, I'm pretty sure having 2 kids gave me ADHD. We have autism as birth control, ... question mark. The best thing about your autism is that we can bang raw after our cuddles and you wouldn't be at risk of getting pregnant. With a smiley face. I don't think so. I don't think that's a thing, personally. As far as I know, I don't think that that's a thing, because, as I say, I have had a child. Is it only autism in women that makes you pregnancy resistant, according to this man, or is it autism in general? Because if it's any autism makes you infertile, again, according to this dumpster brain, I'd like him to explain hereditary autism. Yeah, that is true. How is it getting passed on? It's like when everybody thinks that all autistic people are asexual, that they never have sex. It's like, wow, it's got to be passed on somehow, so probably somewhere there are some autistic people having sex. Somewhere in this world. He'd just argue autism isn't hereditary. Yeah, people can get really triggered by that. It's the vaccines. It's the water supply. I didn't read that. Good luck to him explaining how both I and my father have have autism, and then someone replied, that's clearly because you're both vaccinated. I'm gonna assume this dude heard someone say a joke about their autism being birth control. Oh, okay, and it completely flying over his head, so he just took it literally. Maybe that's kind of like an in-joke between these two people as well. Hopefully nobody actually believes that. Just putting it out there if you didn't know, autism is not effective birth control. You're gonna have to do something else, unfortunately. The next one, all women have autism. Fun fact, all women have autism or act like they do. It's a product of feminism. Look into it. I always assume these aren't serious and like it's just a joke, but then I think about the things that come up in my comment section and I'm like, nah, maybe not. It's really hard to tell on the internet. All women have autism or act like they do. What does that mean? Because the thing is, the stereotype of autism is kind of this like clinical, sterile man, very logical. You know, that's kind of part of the reason why a lot of autistic women have gone undiagnosed, and also a lot of men who don't fit that stereotype, and just a lot of people in general just have gone undiagnosed. So like what about autism is like inherently feminine in some way? Is it just that like autistic people tend to be a bit more independent sometimes, and we're like not as embarrassed by things, so we're a bit more comfortable to go against the grain, and that could maybe be linked to feminism, like outspoken women? Is it the stereotype that women talk a lot and autistic people tend to talk a lot about their special interests? I don't know why I'm even giving this the time of day. Why am I even trying to understand this? I don't know. I think by the it's a product of feminism, he's using autism as an insult, not legitimately thinking all women are autistic. Maybe they are just using autistic as an insult. I made a video recently about the whole thing of people using autistic and then also acoustic as an insult, if you want to check that one out. Somebody put, buddy, it's not a product of feminism. We just fake autism around you so you'll go away. I don't know where that comes from. As far as I know, autism is very blue. Autism speaks very blue. What the F does that mean? So someone said, you are not autistic. Female autism is made up. Stop trying to appropriate a male issue. So I don't know which of these are true, which of the rumors are true. Are all female people autistic because of feminism, or is it a male issue that women are appropriating? Which one is it? Someone's gonna have to tell me. Somebody's commented, there's a fixed amount of autism in the world, and every time a woman is diagnosed, she steals one autism from an 8-year-old upper middle class white boy who likes trades. She steals one autism. I know, I never like this like back and forth between, you see it with genders, you also see it with higher support needs versus lower support needs autistic people. This kind of aspect of competition of like who really is the true autistic person, who fits this label. I just feel like there's room for all of us. There's room for the autistic women, there's room for the autistic men, there's room for high support needs autistic people, there's room for low support needs autistic people. You know, it's a spectrum, everyone's so different, people with different levels of support needs are gonna need different resources. I don't think autistic women are taking anything from men by being diagnosed, and there are obviously a lot of men being late diagnosed as well. I just think we all deserve all the support to thrive. You know, maybe that sounds a bit idealistic of me. I just feel like there's room for all of us in Autismville. It's fine. We don't need to gatekeep it anymore. Someone said it was dinosaurs, but I was that 8-year-old boy. I had to wait 30 years until I could steal some autism back. Oh, because they didn't get diagnosed either. Yeah, you know, that's the thing. It's not just women who are late diagnosed. People of all genders can end up slipping through the cracks for various reasons, whether it's to do with your finances. I think there's room for all of us. All aboard the autism train. Let's go. It's only autism if you're an 8-year-old upper middle class white boy who likes trains. Otherwise, it's just sparkling awkwardness. Sparkling awkwardness. I love it. We ever need to rebrand autism. As I was saying in the video about autism being an insult, you know, if we ever need to change the word because there are too many negative connotations, let's just go with sparkling awkwardness. There we go. That's what we'll have instead on the DSM-6. If I chop off another autistic person's, I get their autism powers. There can only be one. Chop off their what? I don't know what you're chopping off. Oh no, somebody commented saying some people think autism comes from gluten. Women having babies past 40 is why we have autism. From that point, the higher you go in age, the higher you go on the spectrum. The higher you go on the spectrum. The spectrum is now something you have to climb. How high on the spectrum are you? That's what I want to know. How high are you today? I think there is a little bit of a correlation with maternal age and the likelihood of your child being autistic, but it's quite complicated. And I think also the father's age comes into it a bit as well. But we never like to talk about that one, do we? But yeah, certainly not this simple. Like the older you are, the more autistic they'll be. My mom had me when she was pretty young. She was only 26, so maybe that explains why it took me so long to get a diagnosis. Maybe I'm very, very low on the spectrum. I'm sitting at the bottom. I think actually there is even something that suggests maybe being quite young as well can also be linked to having an autistic child. I don't know, it's complicated. Stuff is complicated. Genetics is complicated. Autism is extremely complicated. So they're never going to figure us out. We're a riddle. You can't say simplistic things like this as if they're fact. It can be so hard to respond to people when they do this though. Like someone could just sit there and go, the sky is green, and then you like have to spend like 3 hours kind of come up with an essay to explain why they're wrong. Because it amazes me how people can just be like so loudly wrong on the internet, you know, just so confident that this is it. Somebody commented, this guy got it backwards. The risk of autism in babies is like 10 times higher if the father is over 40. I don't know if that's exactly an accurate fact, but yeah, it's complicated. It's complicated. It's like all those men who blame their wives for not giving them a son. My dad was one of them. Oh no. No, just start it with the facts. Based on scientific research, if a man over 40 has a child with a woman in her 20s, the child will be super normal and neurotypical. Source, trust me, bro. From attorney friend who looks like a frog. I want an AspGF. She's got a Pokemon shirt on. AspGF only wants to play video. Is that video games? I don't know. Don't take my autism diagnosis away. Explains lore of her favourite JRPG to you in detail. Will cosplay as any character you want her to dress as. Asexual. Will do sexual things in exchange of toys/games. I've seen like autistic people sometimes making jokes like, oh, autism is so sexy. And then some people argue like, oh, you kind of might be fetishizing autism or something like that. I've not really seen things where people kind of fetishize autism in this way. It feels like maybe this person is enjoying some of the more like stereotypically childlike things. Why do you want them to be asexual but then also do sexual things, but only when there's like presence involved? So basically you want to be able to manipulate them into doing something they don't want to do because you for toys as well, which are, you know, typically associated with children. This is not great. This is not necessarily something that I wanted to see. I do apologize. Somebody put, this feels simultaneously infantilizing and fetishizing. Well, I don't know if the fetish is maybe part of the infantilization, which is just a little bit concerning. I have seen comments from people saying like, oh, women can get away with having these stereotypically younger interests a bit more than men can, and feeling like it's a bit unfair, you know, like women can collect soft toys and maybe that's not seen as strange as it is as somebody who's perceived as a man. And then I thought on that and I was like, yeah, I do think that's true, and I think that that's unfair. But then also I think women in general are infantilized, just, you know, even if they're not autistic to some extent. And then also there is a little bit of a sexual component to that infantilization. I don't know how deep we want to go with psychoanalyzing that, but if somebody is making you do things you don't want to do in exchange for buying you things to do with your special interest, you know, the right person is going to do nice things for you regardless. I hate the idea of like sex being a reward and like being withheld or given depending on what somebody has done for you. No matter what somebody does for you, you never owe them anything. Someone said, sadly, I think that's extremely common view of autistic women. Think about the manic pixie dream girl trope. We often get both because what they are sexualizing is the idea that we are easier to manipulate and control. Yeah, maybe that's part of it. Somebody commented, why would autistic people cosplay whoever you asked? Aren't we famously picky about fabric and how clothing fits? And also about who we'd want to cosplay as, you know? Like, wouldn't it be whatever your interest was at the time? I've never cosplayed. I feel like my autism diagnosis is at risk here, but I haven't. I'm cosplaying as a moth today. I have some moths on my dress. If I was going to cosplay, who would you recommend that I cosplay as? Who do I remind you of who is cosplayable? As an autistic person, can confirm I buy one brand specific type of socks, the only ones I can actually stand. I love bamboo socks. That's what I would recommend. If they ever stop selling them, I'm really screwed and will need to start my search all over again. Yeah, that can be so frustrating when things are discontinued, for sure. I was so confused for a second there. Somebody replied and said, fellow person that only uses one sock. I was like, what is this? Some sort of autistic sensory hack where you only wear one sock? How is that beneficial? Someone said, had autism mansplained to me today. I'm autistic. So this person had posted, autism is associated with risk factors related to COVID-19. It's not necessarily autism itself that increases risk, but that autistic people are more likely to live in communal settings and are more likely to have an additional high-risk health condition like autoimmune disorders. Yeah. That's true. So then somebody replied, well, autism is a spectrum and not exactly a disease. It's more or less a group of two sides of one circle, which one is high function and low function, depending on what side of said spectrum. I'm so confused. What does that mean? Autism is a spectrum, not exactly a disease. So yeah, it's not classed as an illness. It's more or less a group of two sides of one circle, which one is high functioning and low functioning, depending on which side of said spectrum. So that's trying to say there's low functioning and high functioning autistic individuals. Don't really love the word high functioning, but however, it is probably a lie anyway, because autism is more and more prevalent nowadays and you'll never tell. It's been like 90 risk factors with a virus that's barely severe to put you in hospital by itself. So I have a degree in psychology and I'm autistic. I'm well aware of what autism is, thanks. Okay, so they're trying to say autism is a spectrum basically, I think, and that autism presents quite differently from person to person. Or are they saying that people are probably lying about being autistic anyway because it's becoming more and more prevalent? I don't know, I feel like this isn't just mansplaining. I feel like this isn't necessarily a gendered issue. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like most people, most non-autistic people, like to have an opinion about autism. It's one of these things where most people think they know a lot more than they do about it, I think, because like we know there's been research into what the general public knows about autism and it's all, you know, completely a mess. It's not very accurate. There's a lot of misconceptions, but when you speak to people, they act like, you know, they know everything. They've either personally worked with autistic people, or they know somebody who's worked with autistic people, or they know one autistic person, and therefore like their whole idea of what autism is based around this one person. I don't know if just most people find it an interesting topic. I guess it's quite a big loaded word in our society. Maybe it just feels like something people should have an opinion on. So if you tell them that you are autistic, they tend to kind of want to almost show you what they know, sort of thing. It might just be sometimes people trying to make conversations, but like, I don't know what it is. In general, this just seems to be a human tendency to like have an opinion. And I know I'm guilty of this as well in my own head, forming an opinion about things sometimes when you don't really have enough information about that thing to have an opinion, but you just base it on the little bits and pieces that you do know. And really, like, the responsible thing to do would just be like, I don't know, I'll go and do some more research, or I won't go and do some more research because maybe I don't have time to know everything about everything, but then I just maybe won't offer my opinion on that thing because it's something that I have chosen to not know that much about, and that's fine. So that's kind of what I try and remember, you know, when I start noticing myself having thoughts about things, I'm like, well, do you actually know enough to make that judgment? It's the same with veganism as well. Like, people kind of transform into a nutritionist, into a dietitian suddenly, and they know everything about it and on all the problems you're going to face and stuff like that. People have got a little bit more accepting. I think it's been a little bit more normalized when people are vegan now, but when I first went vegan, which was like 14 years ago, like, yeah, there was a lot of interesting things that were said. I'm Megan the vegan, as some people call me, even though my name's Megan, not Megan, but okay, it rhymes. I'm sure not everybody has bad intentions all the time, but yeah, when you do know a bit more about a topic, it can be quite frustrating. I think with the mansplaining element, I suppose for me there is an element of me being like a quiet woman and like softly spoken, and like I don't always want to like massively offer and put forward my opinion in person, so I kind of sit back sometimes, and then that maybe, you know, encourages the other person to go off on one. And to also assume that I know less than I do. I think historically most people are kind of surprised when I know stuff. Autistic person reporting in, F those guys, I hate having my condition blamed on every political and religious bandwagon under the sun. What's worse is the folks who try to cure autism with bleach cocktails. Then somebody said, not to mention assholes who use it as an effing excuse for their lack of social skills. Yes, people with autism have difficulty socializing, but we can work on it. Hell, I'm autistic and most people don't know because of how outgoing and friendly I am, exclamation mark. Okay, I do think there are a lot of people who are within the autistic community who are a bit guilty of thinking that their experience will be everyone's experience all the time. And obviously that just isn't the case. People have very different profiles, very different strengths and weaknesses. You might be somebody who struggles less with socializing. I struggle less with socializing than many people do. I get very anxious about it and I find it exhausting, but I am able to come across well because I am able to mask. I have videos about masking. This person might just be really good at masking, not every person is. I certainly have got better with masking over the years, and I did put a lot of effort into it, and doing it excessively sent me into a burnout for like 2 years. So it's not always necessarily a positive thing. It's complicated because masking can lead you towards, like, you know, more opportunities and help you to get the job that you really want and help you to make a living and exist in this society. It can also be really exhausting and really have a negative impact on your mental health. So I don't know, complicated one. Like, what do you do? Somebody said, I agree with this, but I don't think ND people should have to completely mold themselves around NTs and accommodate for them constantly as we often expected to. Yeah, I don't know. It's a balance. It's a complicated balance for sure. If you want another deep dive into another interesting subreddit, then I did have a look at the fake disorder cringe subreddit, where people call out individuals that they think are faking, and it was all around autism. People getting angry about bath bombs and stuff like that. A journey. If you'd like to support the videos that I do on this channel, I do have a Patreon, and if you join the $4 per month tier, you get 2 exclusive videos every month and access to my Discord community where you can chat to other autistic people, make some autistic friends. I have a bunch of exclusive videos on there now. One of them is about autism and sex education, how that can be improved, and it's like over an hour long. There's a lot of content available on there, and if you go to the second tier, you can access the podcast that I do with my husband as well. There's a lot of stuff, so if you would like to join that, I'll leave the link down below. It's called the Antisocial Club. Subscribe if you'd like to, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.